people that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
He just tossed an air ball, like in a critical. You're up by 2 with 20 seconds left. You said, give me the ball, up LeBron James, and he tossed an air ball. And there was AD under the bucket fighting everybody, and he ends up going to the free throw line.
They used Tavares as a friggin' pinata tonight. Dude, I know you're old, but get it together. This is your last run at something, man. This is your career, bro. Don't go out like this. Oh, it was hard watching this.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You're not going to get the Tiger Woods size audience. Because do you know where they went? They went to Caitlin Clark. That's where those people went.
What?
Those people are now going to the WNBA. Yeah. The fan that only watches what's hot, the fan, the casual who doesn't really like sports but likes to be involved in the in thing, they're watching
cooler discussion.
They're watching Caitlin Clark.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Catch the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 3 officially underway on the early line. Sirius XM Channel 159 radio on the SportsGrid Network. Davis Maddock, Donnie right side here. And boy, oh boy, covering a ton of topics with a ton of guests. And still an hour to go in the show. Do we have enough fuel? Do we have enough logs on the fire, Davis, for us this morning? Are we ready?
I mean, absolutely. I feel like we're just getting started, man. We haven't even really started making too many picks yet. Like there's so much going on. We are here for the long haul here on the early line, Donnie.
Absolutely. I mean, just getting calls here from Craig Mish saying if you guys want the next hour for Newswire, you can handle your business then. So we got energy for days, people, which means we like to reach out to the public here. Fading the public, backing the public. Our poll today at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV on X. Will the Nuggets sweep the Lakers in round number 1? It's a 2-0 series lead here for the Denver Nuggets as we head back to Los Angeles and Crypto.com Arena. If we're taking a look at the voting here, yes and no were the two answers. Yes. 55.1%. No, 44.9%. It's neck and neck. So I'll ask you first, Davis. In this poll here, which way did you vote?
I voted yes. I think the Denver Nuggets are the superior team. They have won 10 games in a row against the Lakers. They are just an awful matchup for the Lakers. They're too big. They're Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. You've got Michael Porter Jr. is 6'11", Aaron Gordon is 6'9". And I feel like each game that the series goes on, it's more difficult for the Lakers, right? They're the older, creakier team. They even did get a good shooting performance from D'Angelo Russell. Didn't matter. Maybe, I think probably the way they actually pull one out is like Austin Reeves just goes like totally unconscious. Klay Thompson, third quarter, Sacramento Kings, like the guy doesn't even have to dribble. I suppose that could happen. Or maybe we get, one last vintage LeBron performance for the year. He gets his rest, he gets his hyperbaric chamber, is drinking his smoothies and comes in, drops 42. They win one at home. Sure, it's definitely possible. It's interesting that the fade the public odds there basically mirror what the betting market is, which is it's about 55% for a sweep, about 45% to be a gentleman's sweep there. The Nuggets are too good. They're just too good. And the Nuggets are a smart team. They're going to value the rest. They know that if they get this done in a short series, they're going to have an extra 2 or 3 days where they have no opponent on the schedule at all. They're just a professional basketball team. They're going to handle the Lakers in 4.
Yeah, take a look at that 55% to 44% right now, the yes versus the no. My vote did go to the no because I do think it does end up being a gentleman's sweep where one of those 2 games in Los Angeles is going to go towards the Lakers. Then the Denver Nuggets will get back to elevation and Denver and close them out in 5 games. And quite frankly, we would have had an exciting series if the Lakers had held on to that 20-point lead and that 10-point fourth quarter lead. They weren't able to do so, lose at the gun. Playing overtime basketball last night would have been interesting, but we never got there due to Jamal Murray. If we are looking at that graphic that we posted up, if you're looking to back the Nuggets here, well, you're going to pay a price for that. Minus 2,000 for the Denver Nuggets to win the series on the money line. The Los Angeles Lakers, if you want that dog price, a plus 920. And again, the favorite in the clubhouse right now is the gentleman's sweep at a plus 150 price for a 4-1 series lead for obviously the Denver Nuggets here. A sweep would come in at a plus 210 price. Now, the questions always pop up moving forward, like how do you recover from a game that you know you should have won and now you're down 0-2? But also the thought process behind LeBron James being healthy last year in the playoffs, swept out by Denver, swept during the regular season, now down 0-2 in the season. 2 more wins in LA for the Denver Nuggets. That'd be a tough look here. And also, if that does happen, Davis, right? Let's just say we get a sweep by the Denver Nuggets. Does the band just come back together once again in Los Angeles knowing that it's absolutely not going to work next year?
I mean, I don't really see what other option they have as a roster. You know, their 2024, 2025 books are kind of already filled. LeBron has a player option for $51 million. Anthony Davis is locked in on the books for $43 million. D'Angelo Russell has a player option for $18 million. I'm going to go ahead and guess that D'Angelo Russell probably will be picking up that player option. Maybe not. Maybe in today's NBA, D'Angelo Russell can actually get more than $18 million per year on the open market. I would bet against it, but it's possible. Rui Hachimura, $17 million. Austin Reeves, $12 million. Gabe Vincent, $11 million. Jared Vanderbilt, $10 million. You know, you're pretty much already booked up because you're paying $95 million to 2 guys. And it's so tough because you're paying $95 million to 2 guys who are good, who deserve it. You know, LeBron would get that on the open market. Anthony Davis would get more than that on the open market due to where he's at in his service time. But they don't have the pieces around them. You know, what you have to have when you have a great team like this, you have to have what the Denver Nuggets have, which is they got really lucky with some of their rookies, you know, Peyton Watson and Christian Braun being able to be good players on you know, very cheap contracts works. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you know, $14 million a year player. He's better than Reeves for that role. He's better than D'Angelo Russell for the role that he plays. Like when you have the 11th best player and the 14th best player, you can't get to the top of the mountain, and that's where they're at right now.
If we take a look at the Western Conference as a whole, after a couple games obviously have been played early in these playoff series, the Denver Nuggets are a plus 110 price to win the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is a 5-1 price, along with the Clippers at a plus 550 price. Some guys down the ladder here, obviously not winning their first games. The Dallas Mavericks a 9-1 price. The Phoenix Suns 11-1 price. The Los Angeles Lakers a 27-1 price. Looking at those numbers here, I guess if you're going to take the Nuggets and you feel they're the best at the plus 110 price, that's where you go. But you're getting some pretty good value behind the Denver Nuggets. If there were a few teams that you'd say, you know what, at these underdog prices to give the Denver Nuggets a run at the FanDuel Sportsbook, what would those price points be and what would those teams be for you, Davis?
I mean, I don't think that this market is really all that exploitable because, you know, it feels like one of those things where, sure, you can talk yourselves into, yeah, you know, the Clippers, fully healthy, 100% good to go. They could totally beat the Nuggets. The Thunder, they're so young. They will be at, they'll have the rest advantage because, you know, their entire roster is 23 years old. Chet Holmgren can, you know, get Jokic away from the basket. Jalen Williams can lock up Michael Porter Jr. Lou Dort can lock up Jamal Murray. All those things are true. And you can logic yourself all the way around. And then you come down to the end of the day and you say, yeah, but none of these teams have Nikola Jokic. You know, Shea, great player. Doncic, great player. Playoff Kawhi Leonard, great player. One of the greatest playoff players we've ever seen, right? Paul George, very good player. But you can do this from an analytical perspective. You can look at real plus minus, VORP, all that stuff. Jokic is the best. You can look at it just from I'm a guy who likes to drink a Coors Light on the couch and watch basketball. Jokic is the best player if you're just a casual NBA viewer too. No one can do what he does. He's basically the best point guard in the league. As a 7'2" guy who's also a really good defender, Jokic has gotten way better on defense over the last 3 years. That's a big part of their success. I'm not betting anything in the Western Conference right now. The one bet on the board that I think does have some value is take your pick between the Clippers and the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the NBA championship, because I just think those odds are divorced from reality. I think 1 in 10 is probably more realistic odds for both of them.
If I had to give you a look here at some of the teams that are losing in the Western Conference in their series right now, and I said, Davis, you got to pick one series where you believe that underdog can overcome. It's the Lakers at a plus 920 price. It's the Phoenix Suns at a plus 142 price. The Dallas Mavericks at a plus 116, and then the Pelicans at a 610. If you had to have one choice here on a dog, which dog would it be?
Definitely the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, we still have no real confirmation on when or if Kawhi Leonard is going to be available in this series. Luka Doncic, even if Kawhi is available, still has an argument to be the best player in that series. It's got to be the Mavericks as the live dog, I think.
Triple header tonight in the NBA. We're looking forward to that. We'll break these games down a little bit later in hour number 3. But next, we're going to get back to the diamond here. Craig Mish is going to join us with all the updates from Major League Baseball. And he's bringing the heat with the Philadelphia Phillies and their 7-game win streak and much more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
To the 2024 Stanley Cup odds, the Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top-end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in depth. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
MLB action certainly on deck today with a large card. Donnie right side, Davis Maddock on the early line, Sirius XM channel 159. And we welcome in our Major League Baseball insider, Craig Mish, to the program on a Tuesday morning. A lot going on. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. Great to be back with you here. We've got a lot of baseball action here tonight, as a matter of fact. And then, of course, on Thursday night, we got the NFL draft, trying to compact everything in, right? The NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs NBA, baseball as well. Great time to be a sports fan.
No, it certainly is. And by the way, let's get right to it here. Down in the South in Houston, the Houston Texans of the NFL, getting a lot of those headlines here, getting those good vibes for Houston. Luckily for them, maybe covering for the Houston Astros' brutal start, which they're going to take on the Cubs today. They're a slight favorite here on the road at a -110 price at the FanDuel Sportsbook. But Craig, talk about today's game and also, what's up with Houston? When is the turnaround coming here for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. We're still almost here at the end of April, and there's a possibility that they could be 6-7 games under 500. I don't think that their season can be lost in April, but maybe the division if this continues. And look, they just aren't getting the performances that they thought that they would get. A couple of years ago, they signed Jose Abreu. I know he's taken a lot of heat. Another really tough start for him. Alex Bregman, who's going into a free agent season right now, is not having a Bregman-type season. Altuve's been amazing, and their pitching hasn't been very good. So if you combine all of those things going in a negative way, then you kind of see the outcome there. I mean, it's shocking to see actually Oakland be right there with Houston in terms of where they're at as far as the standings are concerned. But look, today is a game. I do think the Cubs have the advantage once again. Typically speaking, the Cubs lineup is better when they can play their lefties as opposed to playing their righties. And so I think that that's the scenario today. Now, France, a couple of starts ago, got really beat up. He was much better the last time out. Could be a close game today, but Cubs are playing good baseball. And until I see anything different from Houston, slight lean would be toward Chicago.
Got really no issue with that. I mean, long-term, huge picture, not that worried about the Astros. I think they'll probably end up winning, 84 games or whatever and finding a way to worm their way into the playoffs. We'll see. We have the Boston Red Sox traveling to play at the Cleveland Guardians today. Tanner Houck pitching for the Red Sox, Ben Lively pitching for the Guardians. I do find this hot start to the season a little bit surprising for the Guardians. We got Josh Naylor, absolutely tearing the cover off of the ball. Jose Ramirez is starting to turn things around. Stephen Kwan, great start to the year as well. What do you make of these two teams today?
Yeah, Cleveland with, I believe, the lowest, or maybe Oakland, but the second lowest payroll in Major League Baseball to get off to this good start. Maybe, Davis, we should not be surprised. Remember, last year, they hung around the entire year with a team that you did not expect to be there, and they're doing it yet again. In a one-game scenario, certainly you never know what can happen. And look, the Red Sox can't play as poorly as they were playing for the majority of the season. You would imagine at some point that they're going to go on a hot streak, and I don't think Cleveland is going to finish with 95 wins either. So these things will normalize themselves, but in this one-game scenario, not one of my favorite games, I think. I guess it's fair to say on the board, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They're playing good baseball. Basically, at this point, it's fair to say I think the Guardians are a pitching factory. I think that's fair to say. Whoever they call up pitches very well. So probably pass on the game today, but all the credit in the world to Cleveland.
Take a look at the American League pennant odds at the FanDuel Sportsbook here, Craig. The New York Yankees coming at a +310 price. How about the Astros? Not having a great season, but second in line at a 5-1 price. The reason why we bring up the Astros is it's not an end-of-the-season award where it's like, okay, end of the regular season, did you win? No, you have to win the playoffs, which means if Houston gets in the playoffs, they will be a player. Followed by +550 on the Orioles. Rangers, 6-1 price. Those are the teams under 10-1. Shaping up that American League pennant. Do we agree or disagree? And also, any value on that board for you there, Craig?
Yeah, I think the same thing goes for where I had it at the beginning of the season. I think it's important to have an opinion. You plant your flag, so to speak. Mine was with the Orioles. I'm going to stick with it. Their window is now. Their offense is arguably the best in baseball, or right there as far as young talent is concerned. They're number one overall. They just called up Heston Kjerstad, so he is going to hit for them too. It doesn't matter who they play. They just basically bash, and at some point you would think that they'll add to that pitching staff, the back end of the bullpen, because when the window is now, you got to go for it. Houston, maybe they're still in that window, but there was a period of time for 5-6 years where there wasn't a deadline that went by, or a June or July, where the Astros weren't adding on to what they had. I think Baltimore is going to do that, and you know how I feel about the Yankees. At some point, I think that will turn a little bit for them the other way. So for me, it's still Baltimore. I understand why Houston is priced what they are. Davis made a good point. It's like they're the Lakers right now of baseball. Just find a way in. And would you be shocked if Houston won a short series against another team? You would not. So I think a lot of the pricing is right there, but I'm still on Baltimore.
Well, I think the pricing is right But how disrespectful. I mean, how insanely disrespectful for that odds board to not include my Kansas City Royals with a winning record on April 23rd. They spend some money on pitching. They have Bobby Wood Jr. tearing the cover off of the baseball. They have some of the guys in the lineup who are not playing their best, but it's disrespectful to have the Minnesota Twins on there and not have my Kansas City Royals, who are playing today against the Toronto Blue Jays. Gaussman taking the mound for the Blue Jays. Waka taking the mound for the Royals. Can you get with me here on the home dog Kansas City Royals, Craig?
Boy, this is one of those live bets, I think, in a battle of the bullpens. Gaussman has looked okay, but again, after 5 innings, you don't know how much deeper he's going to go. We know Michael Waka Davis is a 5-inning guy at this point. So tell me what the score is in the 5th inning. And some of these games, I highly recommend in all sports, and I think that's why we do a great job here on the network. You have to watch some of this stuff and then react to it. And this is a typical game like that, where you watch what the game flow looks like. Maybe the game is tied at 2. And then at that point, if that's the case, you would side with the Royals. The Royals are doing a really good job on the back end of the bullpen. But I understand why Toronto is favored today.
Baltimore, L.A., a little bit later tonight, 9:38 first pitch, minus 156 favorite for Baltimore. The now first place Baltimore Orioles, Craig, did they get the job done tonight?
Yeah, probably so. Remember, I think it was last week on the show, Donnie, Ben is like, what about your Angels? You said they would go under. And now they lost 5 games in a row. I mean, the Angels are one of the worst teams in baseball, Ben. Of course, he's not here. Keep going against the Angels at this point. I mean, Mike Trout and what else do they have there? Let's be honest. They're now 9-14, trending toward 90 losses. They'll get there.
How much longer will Mike Trout be an Angel? Maybe they'll just let him go throughout his career, never make a trade, and never make the playoffs with him. We'll find out. But also, Newswire coming up next at 11 a.m. Craig Mish will be there, our Major League Baseball insider. More baseball coming up next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
To the 2024 Stanley Cup odds, the Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in depth. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, what do they call it? A Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
More Diamond Notes in this segment. Then we hit the ice with Pete Jensen of NHL.com coming up next, so don't go anywhere. A lot more hot topics to go. We got a few more games to take a look at in Major League Baseball. Donnie Rightside and Davis Maddock, 7:45 p.m. start Eastern tonight. That's Arizona and St. Louis. Two lefties on the mound. Tommy Henry going up against Steven Matz. The favorite in this game opened up overnight as a -116 favorite towards the home team, St. Louis Cardinals. That's up a little bit here to a -126 live and a total listed at 8.5. Now, Davis, I look at this game and see Tommy Henry, the lefty on the mound. 90 batters faced in 2024, a 250 ISO power number, and a 407 weighted on-base percentage against here. That totals 8.5. We over, we under? What are we looking at tonight?
I mean, I definitely think you would feel comfortable going on the over if it was not the St. Louis Cardinals that were the team against it. Tommy Henry is one of the biggest. I mean, he is one of the biggest gas cans in Major League Baseball right now. It's actually kind of crazy that he has a job for a team that has World Series aspirations. But the Cardinals are just brutal, and they're brutal in a way that doesn't give you a ton of hope because it's their young guys who have just shown no development, right? Nolan Gorman, this great lefty power hitter, not a great lefty power hitter anymore. Brendan Donovan was supposed to be the new leadoff man of the future. Brutal. Victor Scott, they call him up. Brutal. Like so brutal that they had to send him back down. Jordan Walker, 22 years old, power hitting corner outfielder. Brutal. Alec Burleson, your DH, your switch hitting DH. Brutal. I mean, because last year the Cardinals were bad, but at least they were bad with, MVP caliber numbers from Goldschmidt. Arenado was still good last season. Some of the young guys were hitting all right last year. Nolan Gorman was hitting all right last year, and it was the pitching that was the problem. But now the pitching stinks, and they can't hit. So what is the plan here as an organization, right? You're throwing out Kyle Gibson every 5 days, Miles Mikolas, Steven Matz, just these total retreads. It's a staff full of number 3 starting pitchers. They're just not a good baseball team. I got no bet on this one. I mean, I would maybe do some player props or whatever. Maybe the Diamondbacks. I mean, it would make me sick to bet on Tommy Henry because I think he is so absolutely brutal as a starting pitcher, but just like a really, really uninspiring baseball team.
Got to bring back Yachty. Got to bring back the boys here. What, little maybe Wainwright action here. Get the clubhouse going. The good vibes for St. Louis. But you're right. One of those teams that's used to bringing up young players day in and day out that are ready to go from their great minor league systems. Hasn't worked out in their favor just yet this year. We'll see if that changes today with the Diamondbacks. Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. Wilson versus Falter. 6:40 p.m.
As of right now, we don't have a confirmed starting pitcher for the Brewers. I imagine we'll get one here fairly soon. Falter is going to be pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'll just sight unseen say I'm probably on the Pirates side here just because they're a more fun team to watch. Don't the Brewers feel just very uninspiring? Basically the same team that they've been for the last 3 years. They never seem to get much worse, never seem to get much better, although they are now missing Corbin Burns.
By the way, take a look at the next game we're going to look at here. The Philadelphia Phillies, 7-game win streak, longest in Major League Baseball currently, going up against Cincinnati. Two lefties on the mound. Sanchez for the Phillies, Abbott for the Reds. Line in this game, overnight, -126 as a favorite towards the Philadelphia Phillies. That's now dropped a little bit here to -126, a total of 9 across the board. Rain in the forecast, 60 degrees with the wind blowing out to left field. What are we looking at today between the Fightins and the Reds?
I mean, the city of Philadelphia, they need a win. They need a win right now, and their only win can't be in filing a grievance against the National Basketball Association. So I'll go ahead and side with the Philadelphia Phillies here. Much better lineup than the Reds. We just talked about how some of their younger guys are not contributing. Not a high conviction play here, but I do like the Phillies -120 money line.
It feels like the Phillies here got Cy Young after Cy Young on the mound. You just saw Ranger Suarez yesterday absolutely dealing. Now you go to the lefty Christopher Sanchez today. You take a look at his numbers through 92 batters he's faced, an ISO of 0.48 and a weighted on base percentage of 270. If you look at the ISO power number to lefties, lefty on lefty crime out here for Sanchez, it's an absolute 0. We'll see what the Phillies can do tonight, see if that lineup cranks again. Easy victory yesterday. Another one in Great American Ballpark could be on deck if play through the raindrops in Cincinnati. But you know what? We covered Major League Baseball. We're going to win some of those games. We're going to lose some of those games. But next, we get a little bit of help out on the ice. Pete Jensen's to join us from NHL.com. Let's see what's going on the ice. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a matter of a few moments.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I mean, they're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
To the 2024 Stanley Cup odds, the Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in depth. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Action-packed with guests this morning on the early line, covering every single sport. Donnie right side, Davis Maddock, and now we welcome in NHL.com's Pete Jensen to bring the heat on the ice. The playoffs are underway. Pete, how we feeling so far?
The home teams have been feeling great so far through 3 days of the Stanley Cup playoffs, 8-2 record. Also some nice come-from-behind wins. I think the one that jumps out at me is Carolina putting the clamps down on the Islanders and reminding them, hey, this might be a short series here with their suffocating style of play, overcoming a 3-0 deficit to win 5-3 on Monday night. Pretty insane.
Absolutely incredible. Let's get right down to it. One of my favorite teams here that we take a look at, the Edmonton Oilers, 7-4 victory last night. 5 assists, 5 by Connor McDavid. How does that happen, Pete?
I mean, he's the best player in the world, and he has everybody else on that team along for the ride. I think we come to expect performances like that from McDavid and Draisaitl, but one thing to look at, especially in the props market, Zach Hyman and Evan Bouchard also had monster 4-point games in game number 1 against a familiar opponent in LA. And those guys, like the heat has been on for those guys all season long. Zach Hyman led the NHL in the regular season in high danger goals and a lot of tap-ins because he plays with McDavid, of course, and high danger shots on goal. He's led the NHL 2 straight years. And Evan Bouchard, very quietly, was a top 5 scoring defenseman in the entire NHL. Maybe if the season was a little bit longer, he might have caught a Quinn Hughes or a Roman Josi or Cale Makar. He's been that good this season.
All right, talk to me a little bit about this Vegas Golden Knights victory over the Dallas Stars. The Stars, one of the teams that headlined the Stanley Cup odds as we began the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights have a real knack for these upsets in these series. Do you see this being one of the more entertaining first-round series overall?
Definitely. That's the best series on paper to me in the league. You see Dallas, like nobody's more loaded than them in terms of having 3 strong lines. Hottest goalie in the league the last month of the season was Jake Ottinger. They're so deep. They added Matt Duchene in the offseason. They have the rookie Logan Stankoven. But it may not matter, right? Because Vegas has been working the salary cap situation to perfection. Long-term IR, of course, Mark Stone came back from that lacerated spleen, scored a power play goal. They added Noah Hannafin, who's a stout defenseman. He had a huge game in game one. And also Tomas Hertl scored a goal. Tomas Hertl is a majorly clutch playoff performer. 2019, look back from the Sharks days, scored 10 goals and got them to the conference final that year. You got to imagine that guy's been dying to play in the postseason for quite some time, as the Sharks took a turn for the worse in recent years. But Vegas, now that they're healthy, I mean, man, they could go toe-to-toe. I actually picked, before the Stone news, Vegas in 7 to upset the Dallas Stars, but I think this series could go either way.
Big win getting number 1 there last night. Let's take a look at 4 games on the ice tonight. A quadruple header. It starts in Madison Square Garden, Washington and New York. Fresh off a game where guys like Rempe were finding the back of the net. Look at this price point. A minus 275 favorite for the Rangers. A total of 5.5. Rangers, Caps tonight. What are we thinking, Pete?
I think the Rangers, the price is narrowing for sure on the puck line for the Rangers because they should overwhelm the Capitals in this series. I think that, that Rempe type thing just gives them a different layer physically compared to previous postseason runs where, either the scoring dried up or the physicality certainly wasn't there. I think you look at the line with Panarin, Trocheck, and Alexis Lafreniere. That's been a driving force for that team down the stretch of the season and really all season long. Whereas in previous postseasons, Panarin has come up a little quiet in those big moments in the postseason since joining New York. So, I picked the Rangers to win this series in 5 games. This is the only chance, I think, if Washington wants to get its way back into this series to halt the momentum. But the vibes going on at MSG right now between the Knicks and the Rangers are a little too strong for the Capitals, who had minus 37 goal differential in the playoffs. They're lucky to even be here, to be honest.
All right, next up we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are playing at the Florida Panthers tonight. 98 points in the regular season for the Lightning, 144 regular season points for Nikita Kucherov. Is there any drama to be found in Lightning at Panthers?
Oh, definitely. It doesn't matter if the Panthers outshoot them 2-1. We saw it a couple times in the regular season where Tampa just continues to give them fits. You look at Tampa, like the last month or so of the NHL season, they were tops in the league in goals per game. That was another one of those games, right? Florida scored an empty net goal. Then, Tampa scored with just a little bit left in the game to keep the pressure on them. No victory is going to be easy in that Battle of Florida, and especially with Mikhail Sergachev maybe coming back at some point in the series. Everybody thought he was done for the year after that gruesome leg injury, but he's been skating in a regular contact jersey. So that's something to watch out for, especially if Tampa evens the series here. Like if Sergachev comes back, that could tilt the scale back into their favor. And I think we all know Tampa won both previous matchups in the playoffs against their cross-state rivals, Florida.
Pete, 9:30 tonight, another face-off here between Colorado and Winnipeg. Winnipeg, the 1-0 series lead already, and this is what we'd love to see, a de facto pick-em across the board tonight in a total at 6.5. So we're looking for a great game and some goals to be scored. Who has the advantage tonight between Colorado and Winnipeg?
I would expect to some extent a bounce back from Colorado because they doubled them up in shots on goal. And it was one of those situations on the live line where you're looking at Colorado as they were down, 7-4, then 7-5, then 7-6 when Middlestad scored. And you're like, if this game is, maybe 30 seconds to a minute longer, Colorado probably would have tied it up. So that is an Avalanche offense that is so robust. I think even though they're not as deep as they were when they won the Cup in 2022, I would expect a response from that team. But also expect a response from Connor Hellebuck. Remember that stretch earlier in the season when the projected Vezina Trophy winner Hellebuck was just locking down on teams left and right? They had an 18-2-2 stretch, Winnipeg did, where they were dominating the league, and 21 of those 22 games they allowed 2 goals or fewer. So maybe expect a little bit different landscape in this game after the 7-6 thriller in Game 1.
I mean, look, I hope we get another one of those thrillers with Colorado coming out on top. Our final matchup here to preview in the Western Conference, we have the Predators at the Vancouver Canucks. What do we make of this one?
It's another one of those comeback wins, right? Vancouver was trailing in the third period to Nashville, and and really erupted. We know that offense is capable of big things, especially when Dakota Joshua is healthy. I think Vancouver's worst stretch of the season was when Joshua and Thatcher Demko were both banged up late in the season. But if they're getting production from their big trade acquisition, Elias Lindholm, they could overpower Nashville in this series. I did pick Nashville because they were second in the NHL in goals per game since February 1st. And like Tampa, one of the real strong finishers to the season, and they have their opponent on upset alert. So in this particular matchup, I would lean on those top guys for Nashville to make a response here, whether it's Yossi, UC Saros, or goal-scoring leader Philip Forsberg, who was sixth in the NHL in goals in the regular season with 48. He hasn't done much against Vancouver this season. I would expect that to change very soon.
Quadruple header tonight, Pete. Looking forward to it. But also, let's set the market here. I should have said reset the market on the Conn Smythe Trophy odds. Connor McDavid at a 9-1 price, followed by Shesterkin, 15-1, Panarin, 16-1. Who are we giving it to? I know it's early, but who do we look forward to giving this trophy to?
Yeah, I mean, McDavid was my pick in the preseason. I'll stick with my preseason prediction for the Cup final, which was Edmonton over Carolina. But yeah, I think outside of McDavid, it could get really interesting. You have the Mark Stone angle if Vegas goes on another deep run. Remember, he was a guy, Marchessault won it last year, the Conn Smythe, but Mark Stone had the series clinching hat trick. So don't sleep on that storyline. Also, super underrated Kyle Connor for the win of the Jets.
He's Pete Jensen. He brings the heat on the ice. We'll be right back with the NBA.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
To the 2024 Stanley Cup odds, the Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in depth. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He's ready to roll. Dominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
You just heard Pete Jensen there go over a quadruple header on the ice tonight. We flip it back over to the NBA. We have a triple header. 7:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. Eastern are the starting times tonight. Phoenix Suns, Minnesota Timberwolves, Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks, and then the nightcap, the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Clippers. Game number 2's out here, so let's get it started right off the bat. 7:30 p.m. tonight. Rotation number 509-510. Phoenix Suns, Minnesota Timberwolves. Overnight line at the FanDuel Sportsbook, a -4. FanDuel now currently has this game at a -3 as a favorite towards the Minnesota Timberwolves. A total overnight at 213.5. That has now dropped to 212 even, so maybe a more defensive effort here from the Phoenix Suns. The Minnesota Timberwolves smacked the Suns game number 1. Do we see a repeat performance out of the Wolves, or does Phoenix even up this series for you, Davis?
I think that is it's pretty tough to call because the Suns were not very good in game 1. They actually, if you care about these sort of things, did win the shot quality Olympics there in game 1. You know, their expected points per possession was higher, which is going to happen when you have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. But obviously, in reality, the Timberwolves are much better. Anthony Edwards completely laid the smackdown, 33 points on 24 shots. Mike Conley did not play that well, but Naz Reid was a +22 off the bench. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, how about 4 for 9 from 3 while playing some absolutely lockdown defense. We have Grayson Allen questionable with this ankle injury. I don't love that. I mean, it feels pretty tempting to just say the Suns never really put it together. They were not all healthy. You know, Beal, Booker, and Durant were not all healthy for long enough at one time. The Suns don't have a backup center. You know, the coaching staff does not trust Drew Eubanks or Bol. A little bit of what they do is they just toss out Kevin Durant, you know, as the backup center, just because, like, well, what else are we supposed to do? You know, but those lineups are way too small. I mean, they'd be way too small against a normal team, but they're really small against the Timberwolves, who pretty much always are playing with 2 centers. You know, they always have 2 of Gobert, Reed, or Karl Anthony Towns out there. Yeah, I think I'm leaning the Timberwolves. I mean, it feels Kevin Durant, all-time great player, you know, top 10, top 15 player of all time, but this Suns roster just really is not it.
Yeah, look, it's the big 3 really has to carry the day. We understand that. But you take a look here for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you know, getting those nice advantage. Alexander Walker had 18 points in the last game, a +28 off the bench. Naz Reid, as you talked about, a +22 off the bench, scoring 12 points. And, of course, your superstar, Anthony Edwards, giving you 33. You look at the big 3 from game number 1. Kevin Durant, 31 points on 11 of 17 from the field. That's what you'd expect. Bradley Beal, who, again, 37 minutes, but still shot 60% from the floor and 15 points. And Devin Booker, only 5 of 16 with 18 points. You need those secondary scoring options at this point. Is it just so easy to believe that unless the big 3 go nuts, they just can't win? Because that wasn't even a close game in game number 1. 120-95 final. What would have to change for the Suns in this game? Is it just so simple where Durant and Booker have to go nuclear and combine for 80 total points for them to have a chance?
I actually don't think it's that complex. I think it's really just Kevin Durant has got to not play Karl Anthony Towns to a draw. He has got to dominate Karl Anthony Towns. So Karl Anthony Towns in game 1, 19 points on 9 shots, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. You might be like, oh, well, Durant was way better than that. I mean, keep in mind, Karl Anthony Towns missed his final rotation in this game due to the blowout. But Kevin Durant, you know, 31 points on 17 shots. For the Suns to win this series, to come back, I think Durant needs to be more like, you know, he's got to be making 45% of his series. You know, the performance that I remember is that 2021 series against the Bucks when he was a member of the Nets. You remember watching that series, Kyrie not there, James Harden playing through the knee injury, and it's just like every time down, it's get Durant the ball on the nail, give him a screen. He's going to shoot that 18-foot jumper, or he's going to extend it back to the three-point line and get a shot over whoever's defending him. I think back about that series a lot, that if Durant was like a size 13 shoe instead of a size 15 shoe.
Yep.
So it's a great sliding doors moment in the history of the NBA. What would have happened in the NBA if that shot was a three-pointer, not a two-pointer? The Nets win that series. Where's Kyrie playing? Where's Harden playing? It's just those guys only played 16 games together. Neither here nor there. Kevin Durant's got to be the best player in the series. He can't. If Anthony Edwards is matching Durant in scoring, no shot. No, not even going to be close, because the secondary Wolves players are so much better than the Suns secondary players.
Yeah, talk about that sliding doors moment, which also on the opposite side, Giannis probably moves on to Los Angeles. You know, Budenholzer gets fired and the Bucks are never to be heard from again, and yet they got an NBA championship because of that. Oh, no, it's really too close. Was it a three-point shot or was it a two-point shot here? Let's keep it out west. Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Clippers. Mavericks, disappointing performance in game number 1, but James Harden really showed out for the Los Angeles Clippers. We take a look at this line, which opened up overnight as a -1 point favorite here at the FanDuel Sportsbook for the Clippers. We now see this morning 2 at the FanDuel Sportsbook as a favorite towards the Dallas Mavericks. Other outlets even showing a 2.5. Total in this game listed at 216.5. The Mavericks got to get one of these games done because the longer you can wait out, that means Kawhi Leonard possibility of coming back does increase. What are we looking at tonight between the Mavs and the Clippers for you?
That's actually a great point. That the Mavericks would be much better. I mean, obviously they would prefer to win, but I mean, even if they're playing them to a draw, even if it's 2-2 after 4 games, like getting to a game 7. I mean, imagine Kawhi Leonard comes back for game 7. He's like the frickin' Terminator. Mm-hmm. He comes in, and you're like, great. We played them to a draw. Doncic had, 3 big games. Maybe Kyrie had 1 big game. Maybe Paul George was off 1 game. James Harden goes 0 for 9 from 3-point range in game 5 or whatever. They need to be taking these games right now. I think they probably will. I think this spread is an overreaction to how bad the Mavericks offense was in that second quarter. Realistically, without Kawhi and with Amir Coffey playing, the Mavs should probably be like 4 or 5 point favorites here, I think.
Points props in this game. Luka Doncic, 33.5 at a -128 if you want to go to the over. Kyrie Irving at a 25.5 at a -102 price if you want to go to the over. Flipping it over to some of the Clippers players tonight. James Harden over 19.5 points at a -106. Feels like they're baiting you into taking James Harden once again. And Paul George over 24.5 points. Ivica Zubac had a very good game, number 1. He's listed at 13.5 at a +102 price here. That's 2 games down on the card tonight. After the break, we're going to hit game number 3 tonight, the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks, and also give out some best bet. Yesterday I hit an under. Where are we going on the card today? Come on back with us on the early line and find out.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
To the 2024 Stanley Cup odds, the Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top-end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in depth. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NBA triple header tonight, and boy, we are anticipating some big doings. Teams need to get back into the series. Nobody wants to go down 0-2, but one more game left to preview tonight, and that's the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. If we take a look currently here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Milwaukee Bucks are a -1 point favorite with a little bit of juice at -112. If you're just looking at the money line, it's really de facto pick 'em. -116 one side on the Bucks, -102 here for the Indiana Pacers. 223.5 is the total. We saw in game number one, Dame Dash just really took off in the first half. 35 points, 6 3-point shots made. He finished with 35 points and 6 3-point shots made. Could it be another big night in effort tonight for the Bucks? Or also, a lot of people, Davis, had the Pacers winning this series, which included probably winning game number one. What changes in game number two today?
I mean, if anything changes, it's just going to be a more confident performance from the Pacers, closer to what we saw from them in the regular season. Like Halliburton was awful. Nembhard was awful. Really, the only two guys who showed up were TJ McConnell and Pascal Siakam. And if TJ McConnell is part of your, plan to beat the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't know how well it's going to go. That being said, I mean, missing Giannis is pretty big. And I don't think you can count on Dame for very many more 35-point first halves for the rest of the playoffs. I would assume that the correct bet here is on the Pacers. I don't feel that good about it because there's a lot of intangible stuff that goes into this young, very untested team playing a literal championship team in the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think I have a side here that I really like.
109.94 was game number one, obviously staying well under the total. Are we looking forward to a more of the Pacers' concerted effort to push the tempo against Milwaukee, or are we looking at more of an under-type pace in this game?
I think we're looking more at an under-type pace in this game just because the Bucks know that's actually their better chance to win. If they try and run with the Pacers, I actually don't know if they can hang. That's more where the Pacers are going to live. Whereas if they slow it down, that's going to be testing the defensive weaknesses for the Pacers much more, I think.
If we take a look at the player points tonight here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Pascal Siakam was wonderful in game number one, 24.5. Tyrese Halliburton, who basically needs to be much more involved here, he's listed at 19.5 in this game today. Flipping it over to the Milwaukee Bucks side, Damian Lillard, after that 35-point first half effort here, he's listed at 29.5. Take a look at Bobby Portis at 17.5, Brook Lopez at 12.5 as well. Should be a good one tonight, no doubt about it. But at this point in the show, with a few moments left, what do we like to do here, Davis? Give the people something they can make some money on tonight with some best bets here. So I will let you go first. Best bet, is it going to be from the NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA? Where are we going today?
We are going to go with the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Mavericks are the better team when Kawhi is not in there. Giving those minutes to Amir Coffey. I think the Clippers might dust off PJ Tucker and put him in the rotation tonight if things go a certain way. There are not going to be very many 8-minute quarters when you are a team with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. They also were doing this interesting thing where Zubats was playing way off Luka, and they were just trusting the Clippers guards to fight through screens. It's pretty hard to do for 48 minutes. I think we see a big Luka game, and I think we see the series get back to 1-1 for the Dallas Mavericks.
That's what we need here, because I did take a four series parlay heading into the playoffs with the T-Wolves winning, the Dallas Mavericks winning, the Cleveland Cavaliers winning, and the Denver Nuggets winning. We'll see if that works out, but I do need a little bit of help here from Dallas. Can't afford to go 0-2 in that series and try to fight your way back, and then maybe the claw comes back and certainly saves the day for the Clippers. For myself tonight, a best bet. It is going to be in the association, and how about this? 3 games tonight. Am I going Mavericks, Clippers? Nope. Am I going Pacers, Bucks? Nope. Timberwolves, Suns? Absolutely. I'm going to lay the 3 points here at the FanDuel Sportsbook with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I picked them to win the series, which means you got to get that vice grip on the Suns here and make them believe they won't be able to win. So I'm going to lay the 3 points with the Timberwolves. I think they're the better team. They smashed Phoenix in game number one. A lot of questions coming up. Could there be some infighting with the Phoenix Suns? I'll lay the 3. What do you think about that, Davis? T-Wolves, winners tonight by margin.
I like it. I like it. It is just believing what they showed us in game one, which is that they are the better defensive team. They have a guy who can go toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant. I mean, we literally saw him go toe-to-toe, right? Anthony Edwards getting in Durant's face, pounding his chest. I'm the best player in the series. I'm the best player in the world. And to be honest, to beat a team like the Suns, you got to believe that. You can't go in being afraid of Kevin Durant, hitting jumpers over you. You got to go toe to toe. So I like it, Donnie.
Give me the healthy team. Give me the team that plays defense and the team that's at home. Minnesota Timberwolves, let's get after it tonight. Well, another exciting showdown on the early line. Donnie Rightside and Davis Maddock. The good thing for you people out there, we'll be back to do it again tomorrow morning to recap and get you set forward for your Sports Grid day. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your day.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10